Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Thank you, Jason. And, who would have thought it? A Luger-Tatanka match is a clear match of the year candidate.
Oh, you had me going there for a second. Joe Gimateo.
Jason, where are you right now?
I am in my living room in Plain Grove.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not I Dream of Jeannie, and I can't be there right now.
Oh, you got me. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, just a quick reminder about our t-shirt contest. We're going to give you the details later at the end of the episode here, but don't forget to submit all of your hellos and fuck yous to our DMs and Twitter and Insta. We'll get more details about that later, but just a quick reminder off the top there. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on February 27th, 1995. This Raw was recorded at the Macon Coliseum in Macon, Georgia, and features Vince McMahon and Jim Cornette on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I am ready.
Ready.
Let's get into it. So our episode tonight, it's going to start with a weird graphic, the WWF symbol with a little white light zooming around it with a voiceover that kind of sounds like that 90s movie guy with the epic voice. World Wrestling Federation, for over 50 years, a revolutionary force in sports entertainment. And then it's straight into the intro music. There's going to be a panoramic view of the Macon Coliseum and Vince roaring, "In the past, we've heard from Lawrence Taylor's manager. In the past, we've heard from Lawrence Taylor's attorney. Tonight, we will hear from former number 56, the all-time NFL giant. Yes, we're going to hear from Lawrence Taylor himself tonight on Monday Night Raw." And Vince and Jim Cornette are going to get into it, and they're going to take sides on this whole LT situation we will be getting into later. But suffice to say, it's very obvious that one takes the pro-LT side and one takes the con-LT side. And we're going to have the hottest rivalry in the WWF tonight, and this makes my ears perk up. And then he says, "Made in the USA Lex Luger versus the Native American Tatanka," and I sag my head just a little bit further down in disappointment. We're going to go to pre-recorded comments now. Great. Lex Luger is there in his red, white, and blue vinyl jacket, looking like the mesomorph that he is. And Lex Luger is going to cut, I don't know, greatest promo of all time, would you say?
Gotta be.
I, as an ardent Lex Luger fan, yes, greatest of all time.
Well, I'm glad that you both agree, because I've copied it here verbatim, and I'm going to read it to you.
Oh.
I have to see if I can get in that mindset. Duh.
Since people aren't going to be able to see us here, you are going to be doing the pecs flexing as well, correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Flicking his pecs.
Yes. It all started at SummerSlam. No, hold on. I need to restart that. I need to make my voice as flat and inflectionless and monotone as possible. It all started back at SummerSlam. DiBiase and Tatanka had the whole world convinced, and here is where Lex's pecs start jumping in anticipation. That it was I who sold out. Even the most ardent Lex Luger fans had their doubts, but it was you, Tatanka, who showed your true colors that night, and then you had to take DiBiase's dirty, filthy $100 bill and jam it down my throat. A humiliation I will never forget. It was right then I vowed revenge, and then in a 6-man tag, 3 weeks ago, conveniently fucking skipping the past 6 months, you ambushed me from behind again, and then 2 weeks ago, on Action Zone, Tatanka, you stooped to an all-time low depth And Lex struggles to correctly enunciate the word depth here while his pecs are flaring. Even for you, when you attacked Chief J. Strongbow from behind, a man who treated you like a son. Well, Tatanka, tonight it's payback time for everything that's happened, and Chief J. Strongbow is going to be in my corner to keep an eye on DiBiase, and I dare you to put a hand on him. Thank God that's over. Just real briefly, guys, without the hilarity of before, what did you honestly think of this promo? Probably the longest promo that we've ever heard Lex Luger give since the Lex Express. Just real quick, Joe first.
Well, I mean, when you have that much blood flow throughout your body, it's hard to talk. This wasn't horrible. I didn't think this was horrible, but I mean, it's just, I know what match is coming, so I just don't care.
Kind of the same. We've certainly seen worse out of Lex Luger than this promo. But it wasn't great either because of he, has the personality of a dead fish. So yeah, it was flat and boring, but certainly have seen worse out of Lex Luger before.
I am going to, well, I don't know. I'd like to disagree with you on that. Maybe I'm just biased, but I want to say this is the worst ever. But chances are the last time we saw something, it was the worst ever. And, it's just a rabbit hole of hatred that I'm willing to go down most of the time with Lex Luger. Thankfully, though, that's going to end all of these shenanigans at the beginning here, and it's going to take us into our first match of the night. Lex Luger with Chief J. Strongbow defeats Tatanka with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, by countout in 9 minutes and 24 seconds. Tatanka comes out first, and DiBiase is carrying that gigantic urn following him. Looks like Tatanka is going to cut a promo on Lex Luger for us while he's alone in the ring here. Hey Luger, I'm going to teach you the real American way tonight. Unsure what that means. Me and the $1 Million Man made a fool of you at SummerSlam and destroyed you at Survivor Series, but tonight I'm going to teach you the Native American way. Again, not sure what that means. I guess Native Americans are heels? I'm not sure. And now here comes Lex Luger, coming down with Chief J. Strongbow. Oh man, Strongbow really reminds me of something here at this point. I can't think of what it is, but the match gets started with Lex chasing Tatanka around the ring for a quick minute, and then some quick no-selling hits, then a rallying clothesline that looked absolutely fucking terrible. And Lex celebrates by roiding out and flexing and shouting. Luger is being extremely aggressive here. It seems like he's maybe got something to prove. We're going to kill a lot of time with Tatanka hiding outside of the ring while Luger has spastic fits in the ring. And finally, Tatanka does climb back into the ring, and the work can start. Tatanka is laying in the hits, and the early theme of this match is going to be that the first time Tatanka hits Luger, it hurts. But every subsequent time in the series, it doesn't, and it just pisses Luger off. This is going to continue through 2 corners, knife-edge chops, punches, head slams to the turnbuckle, all following the same pattern, until finally Lex works himself into another clothesline, then lays on the mat next to Tatanka, punching Tatanka repeatedly, while Luger's whole body jumps with the blows. From the hard camera angle, it looks like Luger is trying to fuck Tatanka's armpit. Tatanka gets up while Lex is yelling and flexing at him, and finagles a way to toss Lex over the ropes to the outside. The $1 Million Man comes over and provides some distraction material for the ref, while Tatanka slams Lex's head off the steel steps. This whole time, Chief J. Strongbow has been wandering around at ringside with a gigantic headdress on his overweight body, and it dawned on me here that the reason why he's making me think of something is because he looks like a turkey. He's been waddling around outside the ring with his tail feathers up, vaguely confused about his existence. The ref is busy keeping Strongbow and the $1 Million Man apart while Tatanka climbs back in the ring. Luger keeps trying to climb back into the ring. Tatanka won't let him at first. Finally, Luger is able to get back in, and Tatanka lays Luger out with a clothesline of his own while we get a camera shot of Chief J. Strongbow making some kind of, I guess, Native American gestures with his hand. Kind of looked like a Catholic benediction cross, but I don't know Native American gestures, so... We'll cut to commercial with Tatanka in charge and come back to the same. Tatanka keeps leveling Lex with punches, which prompts Lex to sit up on his knees and wrap his arms around Tatanka's waist. And I really wish I could think of a clever blowjob joke here because that's what it looked like. It's been mildly gratifying watching Tatanka kick the shit out of Lex Luger for a while here, and now Tatanka is going to keep Luger in a bear hug, stalling the match. Luger rallies to the crowd chants of USA, but he makes it look absolutely horrible. Lex Luger couldn't sell a free steak to a homeless man. Here Lex is going to step out of his comfort zone and attempt a suplex, but it is botched and barely works. We're going to waste some more time wandering around the ring, with Luger pretending to be working up his stamina, pecs twitching, and now we're going into a sleeper hold. I'm getting so goddamn tired of seeing Chief Jay Strongbow's headdress in the camera, but just as I'm writing this note, Tatanka has gone to the outside and ripped the headdress from Strongbow's head and destroyed it. Strongbow starts laying in chops. They look horrible. And while the $1 Million Man has the ref distracted, Luger is able to get Tatanka back into the match. After a quick commercial break, we're back to Lex poorly working on Tatanka. Everything he is doing looks terrible. At one point during his rally, he flexes at Tatanka and yells, while Vince on commentary has an orgasm and goes, "Yeah!" Tatanka gets tossed out of the ring, and then starts to walk out the entryway, giving me hope that this is the end of the match. But no, Lex Luger comes down the entryway as well, punches Tatanka, throws Tatanka over his shoulder, carries Tatanka back down, and throws him in the ring. Tatanka is back to the outside again, trying to walk out again, but Luger manages to pull him back in again. Tatanka gets back to the outside again, and this time he manages to stay out for a 10 count, and Lex Luger is declared the winner. It's not over, though, because Lex is going to go running up the entryway as we leave this segment and go to commercial. Ryan, please, get us started on this match.
It was everything we thought it was going to be. Wow. He comes down with Chief Jay Strongbow, and immediately they start playing Ring Around the Rosie for a little bit, and it's like everything in this match. Almost everything was, let's see how we can extend this out a little bit longer. Let's put on this bear hug and drag it out a little more. Let's put on a sleeper hold and drag it more. Let's have Tatanka act like he's going to give up, but no, Luger's going to go slowly get him and carry him back in. You said this match lasted 9 minutes, and when I got to the end of it, I could have swore it was pushing 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, like, you laugh, but when he got to the end of it, I was like, man, what was that? Like 20, 25 minutes? That was like most of this Raw, right? No, check the time, and it's less than 10 minutes. The best part of the match, the only thing I really found exciting was when Tatanka came out after apparently the first time Luger has ever applied a sleeper hold. They go into this little storyline about how it's Chief Jay Strongbow that must have taught him the sleeper hold, and Tatanka's pissed. And that's what causes him to go out and destroy Strongbow's headdress, which, is that the same one that he gave to Tatanka? Did he get it back?
No,
it's a new one.
Destroyed that one.
I didn't know if maybe he just confiscated it and gave it back to its rightful owner. Yeah, so the most enjoyable part was after the headdress got destroyed and he lays in his lame chops. They cut to him a couple of seconds later after they're back in the ring, and he's looking at the destroyed headdress. Like, it looks like a boy that just found his puppy that got killed on the side of the road. Like, that was what his face looked like. He was going to cry. And that was the most exciting part of the whole match, was Strongbow's reaction to his dead headdress. The rest of it was just boring stuff.
I agree. The big anniversary blowout here is Tatanka and Luger. I agree, Ryan. This was the longest 9 minutes I've ever witnessed on Raw. As far as Chief Jay Strongbow goes, I mean, he's obviously like way before our time, but I mean, WWE thought highly enough of him to put him in the Hall of Fame, which Vince mentions that. But this makes him look so bad. Like they're making a Hall of Fame guy look like a total clown here.
Yeah.
Because he just looks old. Cornette, I know he's doing his heel thing, but Cornette's making it worse by calling him a fossil and all this other shit. Like, it's brutal. As far as the match itself, like, of course, they had to throw all the boring stuff in there. The sleeper hold, the bear hug that lasted like probably 5 of the 9 minutes. I couldn't believe it. It went through 2 commercial breaks. If they're going to do a count out, why have it even be that long? Luger, every time I see Luger now, it just makes me think of people constantly talking shit on like the Ultimate Warrior's wrestling abilities. And I wonder why nobody really shit talked on Luger's wrestling abilities, at least not to the level of the Warrior.
Well, because the Ultimate Warrior actually became famous. Lex Luger.
Yeah, he was over. But as far as wrestling abilities go, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like, they're both just body guys that can't wrestle.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly everything about Luger is terrible, but the torture rack is actually pretty cool. But it's something we never see. Like, he teases it, but we never see it. And it's probably the only cool thing about Lex Luger.
You mean the Rebel Rack?
The Rebel Rack, yeah. My last comment is when Luger runs to the back, like, they could have maybe made this a little bit better if they would have shown Luger beating the shit out of Tatanka in the back. Like, maybe that would have made this a little bit better. But no, it's just Luger runs after him, the match is over, and we move on.
Yeah, no surprise here that I'm going to agree with just about everything you guys have said. I kind of disagree with showing them in the back fighting. Like, that would have added maybe an extra dramatic dimension to it, but I don't see how it could have improved anything. There's nothing. I don't know. Maybe that'd be kind of like putting a dandelion on a pile of dog shit, you know? The thing that I noticed the most out of this match, have you guys seen that meme on the internet of, it looks like it's like a freeze frame of a scene from Pokemon, and it's usually with John Cena, and it says, but John Cena only knows 4 moves.
Yes, I've seen that.
Well, it made me think of that, except put Lex Luger in John Cena's position there. I counted. He only uses 4 fucking moves. And whenever he stretches himself to do a 5th, that one suplex that he attempts, he fucks it up and botches it. All he can do are clotheslines, chops, and that's kind of about it, really. He varies up the way that he does clothesline and chops.
The knee lift.
Oh, yes. Yes, the knee lift.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, I'm not sure if it's coming right up or if it's later, but Cornette basically says that. He says something to the effect of, Luger wrote the book of the greatest wrestling moves of all time. It's 2 covers and no pages or something.
Yeah, and speaking of, this whole shit with the sleeper hold, so is that how they're going to try to make this fresh again? Because, like, I just can't get it out of my head that they keep on skipping the past 6 months. You know, they keep on talking about the shit that happened at SummerSlam, and then fast forward to now, 6 months later, we completely ignored both of these guys. Actually, not Tatanka. Tatanka got a hell of a lot more screen time than Lex Luger did over the past 6 months. I don't know. The whole thing just bothers me. Maybe because I fucking hate Lex Luger. But we'll move it along. The next segment, which is first up in it, is going to be a promotional consideration paid for by the following. And this is going to be Bam Bam pitching Slim Jims for us. Then we're going to go back to the ring. We're going to get a view of a very serious-looking Lawrence Taylor backstage. He looks like he's contemplating his place in the universe. We'll break to commercial yet again and come back to some highlights from this past weekend and Superstars. Apparently, there was a 20-man over-the-top rope battle royale there. Didn't we just have the Royal Rumble? Apparently, Jerry Lawler had the great idea to come out of the ring and land on 1 foot and then hop around the outside on that 1 foot in order to stay in the match. But Bret Hart wasn't having any of that.
And what was it? Foot stomping time.
This highlight of yet another feud from yesteryear getting reignited will end this segment. Just really briefly, guys, Joe first, then Ryan. What did you think of LT finally showing up, albeit briefly, and this Bret Hart-Jerry Lawler situation we were introduced to?
I can't believe that Jerry Lawler ended up being the WWE legend that he became with all this shit that they put him through. Between Donk and now this stupid fucking thing with Bret Hart that he's just turning into a comedy thing. LT, I mean, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see him on screen.
Yeah, kind of in agreement with Joe on Lawler here. I don't know how he became such a legend, and to be honest, come on, he was a legend before this. This is Vince kind of putting a legend through some embarrassing bullshit.
It's almost like the Dusty Rhodes treatment whenever he first came.
Yeah.
It's like, put him in the polka dots.
And and as far as Lawrence Taylor, it's tough to put yourself back in that time set, but I could imagine after all of this buildup, after all these weeks, how excited it would be to finally see him sitting there in the chair contemplating about what he's going to say. So, exciting.
Yeah, that was the reason why I asked about it, because, I mean, we've had so much talk about it, and I'm not bitching about that. It's been good. I've been loving the build to this, and this was kind of like a mini payoff. We finally get to see his face on screen after all of the talk and the lawyers and all that shit. As far as Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler goes, I just thought it was really weird that we had the Royal Rumble, we had the way that the Royal Rumble ended with Shawn Michaels in 1 foot, and now on Superstars, we're going to have a 20-man battle royale.
Don't forget about the Royal Rumble match, too, between Mabel and King Kong Bundy.
Yes, let's forget about that.
Yeah. But, I mean, they basically just copied it note for note here. What are they doing with Bret Hart? And, I thought we had maybe finally gotten over the whole, Jerry Lawler making fun of the Hart family constantly, which, it was fairly entertaining most of the time, but I was happy when we moved past it.
I thought it was pretty clear 2 weeks ago we were bringing that back, though.
Well,
with the whole, he's a racist thing.
Yeah. I mean, you do got me there, but just the way that they copied the Royal Rumble, like note for note. 1 foot, having somebody from, in this case, instead of the British Bulldog, it's Bret Hart. Somebody from the fucking, I don't know. Well, like I said, it was just, it stood out to me quite a lot that they were copying it so blatantly. Well, that last segment is going to take us straight into our next match. Owen Hart defeats Larry Santo by submission in 3 minutes. Owen Hart comes out bitching at the fans, and it's great. We get a view of Larry Santo, and he looks a lot like Glenn Jacobs, albeit a smaller, kind of scrawnier one. They start with a tie-up, which Owen wins, and then throws his hands up with a woo! After a couple acceptable series, Santo has Owen down in an arm lock, and Owen loudly bitches to the ref, "He's pulling my hair!" when Santo was nowhere near his hair. Owen gives us another woo after landing an enziguri. While Santo is laying against the middle rope, Owen lands a Bronco Buster on him, then stays in position to choke Santo against the middle rope. The referee is counting him, and Owen releases on 5 and yells, "I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you." Finally, after some more decent series, Owen is able to apply the sharpshooter and Larry Santos submits. Again, this is a 3-minute match, and it was definitely a squash match. Owen continues to feign deafness while the ref is trying to get Owen to let go. Owen keeps cupping his free hand to his ear, pointing at his ear, saying, "I can't hear you," while not giving an inch on the sharpshooter. We're going to get a fantastic shot of Bam Bam at a separate backstage location wearing an awesome black leather jacket with flames up the sleeves. And Vince says we're going to hear from LT next. But first, Ryan, what did you think of this match?
It was a perfectly good jobber match. Larry Santo did a good job in the ring. Yeah, it's always tough to tell when you have a jobber against a great like Owen Hart. Was the jobber actually doing it, or was Owen Hart just being so great that he could, make anyone look good? But whatever, it's a good match. Like you said, it's definitely a squash match. I mean, we're not going to be talking about any high-flying moves Larry Santo's going to pull off in this match, but it looks perfectly fine, and I did get a kick out of the one point where Owen lets one of his woos go, and there's some kids in the crowd that they don't care that he's a heel. They start cheering for him, and Vince even has to mention it that, he must have brought them in from Calvary. But I don't have any complaints about this match, but I did have to point out one thing at the very beginning of the match. when Owen is coming down, Vince mentions that he is looking for a tag team partner for the belts. And I'm thinking to myself, what happened to the Anvil? So I guess we're not going to talk about it, but the Anvil's gone, and Owen Hart is now looking for a partner.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because I remember reading in one of the Observers a couple months ago that Meltzer reported that the Anvil appears to be gone, but he didn't really confirm that. But I think we have our confirmation here.
Yeah, here's proof of that.
Yeah, and he hasn't really been around even before this. Like, we saw Owen at the Royal Rumble and no Anvil there. The match itself, I don't have much to say about it, but I just got to thinking about Owen during this time, and I think that Owen was a really good heel that they had during this time, which, they didn't have a lot of good heels during this time period, which is why I think this period gets shit on a lot. I think they maybe could have used Owen a little bit more than they did, just, beyond just feuding with his brother. But it looks like they're doing something new with the tag team situation, so we'll get to see that again. But yeah, the match was good. I liked at the end when Owen just kept the sharpshooter on, pretending that he couldn't hear the ref telling him to take it off. But yeah, it's a typical Owen Hart jobber match that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, agreed on all points. I've come to realize that in a match like this, and even going back to whenever the Anvil was coming down to ringside with Owen, it's these little things, the woos and the yelling to the ref, I can't hear you, and just shit like that is the fine seasoning that Owen puts on these matches, because it's almost like he knows that it's just a squash match, and all it's really doing is keeping him alive in the eyes of the fans, but he goes that extra little mile to make it more entertaining for people and just lends a touch of his personality to it. That's what I think has really endeared Owen Hart to me. Joe, you brought up a great point. Well, actually, first of all, both of you brought up great points that I completely missed. I completely forgot about the Anvil not being there whenever they said that he was looking for a new tag team partner. The only thing that I could think of was I was wondering if this is where he eventually meets up with Yokozuna. I don't know if we're too soon for that or what, or if that's a spoiler or whatever, but that's all that I had in my head. I completely forgot about the Anvil up until the end of the match when he wouldn't let go of the sharpshooter, and I was like, it'd be really great if the Anvil was here to put him in the camel clutch so we could do some glasses snapping or something. Joe, you brought up a really great point about Owen being a fantastic heel, and I completely agree, but who would they have put him with besides Brett? He would have overshadowed anybody they put him with, and
Well, he's a good heel that could have gone up against the. I mean, obviously Diesel's feuding with Michaels right now, but
so that's what I was thinking. He's a heel
you could have put up against Diesel, rather than what we're going to get later, which we're going to hate.
You could put him against Razor. Razor wouldn't be a bad choice right now.
Right, yeah.
That's pretty good, yeah. Well, I thought Razor, well, no, because he lost the belt. Razor doesn't have the thing going with Double J anymore.
Yeah.
I just think any program other than Brett and Owen, for Owen, really could have worked very well, and it hasn't really been attempted yet.
Yeah. Well, I do agree with that, but at the same time, as good of a heel as he is, I mean, his main function in the business is going to be to get other guys over. And Diesel is already in a program with Shawn Michaels. I like where that's at. I like the story behind that, coming from being the bodyguard and tag team and introducing Sid and everything. With Brett, I'm glad we're taking a little bit of a break from that. That's good, but that was kind of wearing a little thin towards the end there. And what else have we really had? Who else could we put Owen with that needs to be gotten over? Could you imagine Owen Hart trying to get over Lex Luger? Could you imagine Owen Hart getting over Adam Bomb? Or Mabel? Or any of these other fucks that they can't really do anything with because they're not good enough to do major programs with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, later we're going to see, after this Shawn Michaels feud, we're going to see some stuff with Diesel that you're going to say, okay, they could have done this with Owen or another better heel that we're going to hate. I mean, right now, I think Diesel's in a pretty good feud, but I think after that, it's going to look pretty ugly.
Dun, dun, dun. But whenever you were saying that earlier, the first thing that came to my mind is, well, who is Owen going to wrestle? Lex Luger?
Larry Santo.
Larry Santo, exactly. Somebody infinitely better than Lex Luger. All right. Well, we're going to move it along to the next segment here. And I got to note, they are getting better and better with green screen as the weeks go by. But they are definitely green screened in at ringside.
Better
here.
Or more obvious?
Okay, so with this green screen shot, you can barely tell, at least I could barely tell that they were superimposed on this shot, but the angle of the shot is still just barely not quite right. It looks like the reality is being bent a little bit, but you can't see the lines around them as clearly anymore. That's all.
I personally think that when they're at the table, I think it looks worse than when they're standing in front of the ring.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think it's because they could never get how the table would sit in front of the railing, like the scale and proportion of it.
They also turn the audio of the crowd down a lot, so you can tell, like you can easily tell that.
Oh, you mean those kids?
Really
those
noise.
Kids with their mouths wide open behind them weren't just kind of quietly whispering violently? Well, Vince tells us the New York Daily News is reporting that there's going to be a match. And now joining us to put an end to these rumors. In the split screen, Vince is going to give us a video replay of the events of the Royal Rumble, where Bam Bam launched Lawrence Taylor, LT, back a couple rows. Vince points out that Bam Bam thinks that LT has disrespected him whenever we get to questions, and Vince wants to know what LT has to say about that. LT then says that Bam Bam just disrespected himself. After all, he had just lost to a 13-year-old. For the record, Bam Bam had lost to the 1-2-3 Kid. LT goes on to call Bam Bam childish, saying that they're going to settle things other ways, being very calm, cool, and collected throughout all of this. Here is where LT is going to start to get a little off on his delivery, but it's still not bad, all things considered. LT says that Bam Bam pushes like a sissy. Vince says that Bam Bam has accused LT of hiding behind attorneys. And LT responds with he's not scared of any Bam Bam Bigelow, and that LT respects Bam Bam's athletics. Cornette has been interrupting a few times up to this point, and finally he interrupts like a final time here, prompting LT to ask, who is this clown? And Cornette says that he wants to hear Bam Bam's side of things. And this is where we get Bam Bam and LT on their respective sides of the split screen. Kind of face to face, but not. And I have to note here that I think that this is an amazing piece of storytelling. We still can't have these guys in the same room together, but we're going to kind of juxtapose their faces here. Bam Bam cuts a promo on LT. Vince prompts him and gets him worked up just like last time. Bam Bam is calling LT out. LT gets pissed and takes his jacket off and walks away while Bam Bam is still talking shit. It sounded an awful lot like Bam Bam's challenge was accepted, but we don't get that confirmation before we go to commercial. Joe, please, what did you think about this next step for Bam Bam and LT towards WrestleMania?
This was fantastic. I loved it. Immediately burying the 1-2-3 Kid, calling him a 13-year-old. Great job by LT here with this, kind of keeping himself cool, calm, and collected through the first like half of this interview, and then you could tell this guy is just a master at trash talk later on. Telling Bam Bam, don't forget to wear your dress, girl, as he stands up and leaves. I love that. And who is this clown talking about Cornette? I think credit to Jim Cornette, too, for being as annoying as possible to kind of, get LT going there. So I thought this was great.
I enjoyed it, too. As we've all mentioned, the 13-year-old comment out of LT was pretty great. Kind of just where the storyline's been going in general. The fact that we are finally hearing from LT, and not just hearing from him, but we're getting a little bit of an interaction between him and Bam Bam here. I have to admit, last week I made Cornette my low light. He's been doing much, much better this week, and I actually kind of enjoyed his annoyingness with LT here. It played into it pretty well, I thought. And then when Bam Bam came and talked, it was good too. I don't think it was the best out of Bam Bam. I think in the last couple weeks, we've seen a couple better promos from him. I don't know if this one was like pre-recorded and they were trying to time it up, but something seemed off about the timing when Bam Bam was trying to talk to LT specifically. And you said we don't get, it sounds like LT maybe accepted it, but then we find out, I think at the Harley Davidson Cafe is where it sounds like we might get a definitive answer. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good way to keep this storyline going, and I'm still interested for sure.
We also found out that if LT gets scared, he calls the police.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to agree with just about everything here. This certainly was not Bam Bam's best. It wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't.
But it was not, I could have used a little more heat behind that promo from Bam Bam, but all things considered, I thought that this was an excellent next step in this story. I mean, we've had the talk, then we've had the lawyers, we've had promos from Bam Bam, and now here we have, like I said in my breakdown there, almost face-to-face, but not quite. Just enough to kind of show that everybody's here, and it's not just them using LT's name. LT's actually present, and just a teensy bit of a payoff for all the tension that's happening here, and we're going to keep moving forward with this story. I thought this was really, really well done. And as far as strictly storytelling goes, I'd say this is probably some of the best storytelling we've seen since we've started watching Raw, if not the best.
Are you ignoring Tatanka and Luger?
Well, that's a single event, the single greatest heel turn in the history of professional wrestling. That's an event.
It was an event, but an entire storyline built up to it.
Okay. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
you're
they're
right.
bringing it back 6 months later, too.
You're right.
We're still dealing with the consequences.
You're right. After Strongbow regrew his headdress, I did say that it was up there. If not,
no, I agree.
So.
I agree with you 100%. It's some of the best storylines we've been getting, yeah.
Definitely this and the Hart brothers, I think, is probably some of the best work.
Absolutely. All right, well, we'll move it along here to our next match. Donk the Clown with Dink defeats Bob Cook by pinfall in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Man, I had forgotten that this was going to be here. I've mentioned it before that I kind of have to look, whenever I do my notes for the show here, that I have to look ahead. And whenever I looked ahead last week so that I could mark down, who's going to be wrestling next week, I had seen this match and thought, shit. But I had become blissfully unaware of it in my forgetfulness until we got to this point. Oh, man. Well, at the beginning of this match here, Vince is going to pitch the call-in line, 1-900 Shameless, where apparently Jim Ross is going to be giving updates from the Harley Davidson Cafe where Bam Bam told LT to meet him. Bob Cook is already in the ring waiting, and once the match starts, it's automatically bullshit, as Donk takes Bob Cook down, sits on Cook's back with Cook's leg in a hold, and while Cook is prone, Dink runs in and shakes his ass in Bob Cook's face before running out of the ring again. Dink keeps interfering while Donk sits in holds for basically the entirety of this match. I can't express how boring this is, and then the shittiness of this match reaches a sloppy crescendo as Donk lands the whoopee cushion on poor Bob Cook.
The dreaded whoopee cushion.
The dreaded whoopee cushion with the fart machine sound effect added in there. Vince loves it. Ryan, please give us your frank and honest opinion of this match.
So armbar, anyone? That's it. How long was this match?
This match was a whopping 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
It was a 2 minute and 43 second armbar, and that's it. That is the only move we got the entire time was
the dreaded whoopee cushion.
The whoopee cushion. That's why I left a second or two at the end, because the rest of it was a fucking armbar. Well, and Dink running his ass into people's faces. And that's it. I have nothing more to say about this terrible match other than fucking armbar.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I honestly thought Donk was gone. I'm not even kidding. Like, I thought we saw the end of him. I thought Paulie J buried him alive.
Yeah.
And he was gone. Yeah. I did notice that this match, during this match is when Vince started kind of poking fun at Jim Cornette for being fat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I feel as though I've communicated everything that I need to say about this match. It was fucking horrible. It was everything that we hated about midget shit back at Survivor Series, condensed into 2 minutes and 45 seconds. It was poor wrestling by Donk. It was just really bad, and I'm not bad by, like, quality, well, by in terms of quality, like bad interference from Dink and just lame. Fucking lame. The clown used to be cool whenever it was Matt Bourne. Whenever it was Doink, it was cool. It was good. Donk is so goddamn terrible. All right, we'll move it along to our next segment, which is another quick promotional consideration paid for by the following. Acclaim's Raw's War game looks great, and now it's a petting zoo voiceover. The British Bulldog is having a minor program with the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels as Petting Zoo recaps the Royal Rumble story for us. And finally, this past weekend on Superstars, the Battle Royale, Shawn Michaels eliminated himself right off the bat, then attacked the Bulldog, but the Bulldog won the Battle Royale anyway. Next week on Monday Night Raw, the Bulldog and Shawn Michaels are going to be taking each other on, and we'll see how much of an impact Psycho Sid has on that match. Brief spoiler, guys. I took a look ahead whenever I was doing my notes, as I always do, and you will be happy to hear that the Shawn Michaels Bulldog match is going to take up a large amount of time. I'm greatly looking forward to that. I was very excited when they announced this match.
Yeah. Me too.
Well, we're going to return to the ring for our final match of the night. Kama defeats Ken Raper by submission in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And Ken Raper is our jobber of the week. Take it, Brian.
Thank you, Jason. Ken Raper is this week's jobber. Ken Raper was born Kenneth Clay Raper in Memphis, Tennessee. His birth date I could not find anywhere on the internet, and it's kind of par for the course with all of today's jobbers. There was not really a lot of information about any of them. They were all jobbers in the truest sense. Ken made his wrestling debut in 1976 and was trained by Mario Galento. Raper has used the names...
He should use anything but his real name.
I'm sorry. Right?
It's tough. Raper has used the names Chief Warcloud, Jason the Terrible, Master of Terror 2, Frankenstein, Galaxian Beta, Ken Starr, Ken Rapier, and Ken Raper. Rapier's earliest recorded match was in 1979 for the WWC out of Puerto Rico, where Raper won the Caribbean Heavyweight Championship as Chief Warcloud. He held the belt for a little over a month, but lost his first title defense to Don Kent. Ken spent most of the 80s wrestling for Jerry Jarrett's Memphis-based promotion, CWA. His most notable moment being on October 29th when Raper and Robert Reed won the CWA tag team belts. However, they only held the belts for 2 days, quickly losing them to the Assassins on the 31st. Throughout the late 80s and early 90s, outside of a couple matches in NWA, Ken wrestled for Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett's United States Wrestling Association, again based out of Memphis, Tennessee, before joining the WWF in the mid-90s for a handful of television matches, along with many dark matches. This is his only match that we will get to cover of Raper's, though. This is his only Raw appearance. The other WWF matches are a loss to Bob Backlund on Superstars, then a loss to Men on a Mission with partner Gary Sabaw on Wrestling Challenge. Yeah, no word on if he got to keep his lunch money. And the rest of his losses are all on Superstar, and they are in order: the 1-2-3 Kid, Gold Dust, Razor Ramon, and Farouk. In late 97, Raper left the WWF and after a brief stint at OVW, returned to his hometown of Memphis, wrestling for Power Pro Wrestling, where he would stay until his retirement in 1999. When Ken Raper's wrestling career ended, 5 wins, 52 losses, and 3 draws, losing an astounding 87% of his matches.
Oh, wow.
What a jobber.
Yeah. And I know it's in bad taste, but I can't help but laugh at the amount of times that we're going to have to say Raper throughout all of this. Rapier is actually pretty good.
Yeah. But no, he decided that, well, I mean, it's his true name. It's not like it's some fake gimmick name. That's the poor guy's real name.
Right. And to be a jobber, you have to have a name that people can make fun of because you're a jobber.
Yeah. Yeah, I do apologize to any of our listeners out there that have the last name of Raper, but here we go. I like Kama in this match here, but he looks ridiculous in this outfit. I just, the gimmick is just, I like Kama. I like the way he moves. I like his act, but anyway, Ken Raper looks like a consummate jobber in the ring. You can tell he's a pro at this. This is certainly a squash match. The vast majority of this is Kama beating the piss out of Raper. And they're still pitching Tech Wars for USA here in the promo copy. At one point, Kama gets up in the camera, yelling that he wants more competition. Finally, Kama hits Raper with a belly-to-belly suplex, applies the penalty, and gets the submission. Not much going on in this match here. We'll talk to the British Bulldog here backstage. For once, the equipment is working. The Bulldog is looking forward to taking on Shawn Michaels, and I have to say that I really like this short and sweet promo from the Bulldog. He's much more interesting when he's just talking, as opposed to trying to shout his brains out. And here is where we're going to kind of get the rest of the information on this whole LT thing. The Harley-Davidson Cafe thing with Bam Bam and LT is a press conference. Vince informs us of this. Throughout this show, the messaging on this hasn't been all that clear, but we're going to get Todd Pettingzoo's opinion on the press conference, as if his opinion fucking matters. Pettingzoo says that this is going to be the highlight of his career. Basically, the entire world, every living human being is going to be tuning in to this. Everybody is going to be there, and if you can't make it, just call 1-900-SHAMELESS to get constant updates from Jim Ross live on the scene. This is going to take us out of this episode of Raw as we fade to black. Joe, please tell us what you thought of this Kama match and the final segment to end the episode.
I feel like we're getting a lot of Kama matches to end the show. I feel like this has happened at least, 2 or 3 times where he was like the last match. I thought this was okay. I think it's pretty clear now that he's a heel while he's, yelling for more competition, while he's beating the shit out of Ken Raper. Nothing really worth pointing out other than this served its purpose as a jobber match to get a guy over.
Yeah, and for me, I thought it did a really good job with that. It's a good job of extending this story with Kama. We don't know too much about him, but we now seen him kick the shit out of a few jobbers, and now he is flat out asking for bigger competition. So I assume in the upcoming weeks, we're going to see him at least with a mid-carder. So I'm excited about that because, from what I've seen in the ring with him, he's been pretty exciting, even tonight, regardless of what you want to say about how he looks. He has a lot of energy. His hits look to be connecting, and Ken Raper did a really good job. You called him a consummate jobber, and that's exactly what he was, right down to his looks with those, the red and black, Zuba pants style tighty whitey stuff he had on. Yeah, and I know this will be someone that maybe we're only familiar with, but the way he held himself really reminded me of Crankshaft's dad. I don't know if you guys remember him, but something about Ken Raper reminded me of him. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty entertaining match that did a really good job of continuing our story and making us just a little bit interested in a newcomer, unlike we are with a lot of the other people like Mantar and Hakishi and stuff. So Hakushi, damn it.
And Shinja. I have to mention, too, after this match, when Vince was talking about Luger and Tatanka, I don't know about you guys. I don't really pay attention to time much on this show, but I thought that they were going to have them come back out to finish that match. And I was saying to myself, I swear to God, if that happens, I'm done. I'm never watching any more Raw ever again.
The last time that happened, as a reminder to our fans, Joe ended up in the hospital.
Yeah.
I legitimately thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, so, I mean, I pretty much laid it out there in my breakdown. This was a good match. It was a squash match. It was a jobber match. It did all of those things very well. I like, the wrestler. I like the, style. I like the idea behind the gimmick of being a fighter, like an MMA-style fighter that's coming into the WWF to shake things up. I don't like the look. I think the presentation of the gimmick is horrible, and it's hard to see past it whenever it's bright fucking red spandex and that goddamn haircut. I mean, that's my only criticism of him. He's a fantastic wrestler from what we've seen. He's working this really, really well. He's doing the gimmick of a fighter really, really well. He just looks ridiculous doing it. And I feel they're doing a disservice to him. They're making him look like a cartoon character. Somebody that could actually be taken seriously as a dangerous threat in the ring. He moves like it. He wrestles like it. He fights like it. But he looks like a damn cartoon character. And it just bugs the hell out of me. Besides that, I really liked the Bulldog promo there at the end. Just sweet and to the point, short. And I found it very, very scummy that they were having Petting Zoo pitch this Harley Davidson press conference thing. And if you can't be there like everybody else in the world, call 1-900-SHAMELESS. Just cough up that money. As I said before, that's going to be the end of this episode of Raw. So we're going to take it over to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you go first?
So my highlight, we just covered it. I'm going with the Ken Rapier match. Or I'm sorry, Ken Raper match. I thought it was a great effort out of both guys. It was a squash match, no doubt. But I enjoyed that we're extending this storyline and making us a little bit more interested in this new guy. And now he's going to start wrestling people that are not jobbers. So I was excited for that. Low light, man, I had a tough time because there's a lot of low lights tonight. And I struggled with going between the Donk armbar match and the Tatanka Luger match, but ultimately I fell on Luger Tatanka, mostly because it took up so much more time and was just as boring to watch. I mean, there might have been a couple more moves than just one, but it lasted so long, so that's my low light.
My highlight is the Lawrence Taylor interview. I think a lot of people remember this appearance by Lawrence Taylor being very good, but I think most people remember just watching WrestleMania and, seeing him there, or watching the Royal Rumble and seeing him there, and they don't really remember the build-up, and I don't remember the build-up very well either, but I'm really enjoying that. Low light, Luger Tatanka. I mean, the longest 9-minute match I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be agreeing with Joe on both of mine here. The Bam Bam LT confrontation, just excellent storytelling. Some of the best we've ever seen. As far as the Luger match goes, yeah, I agree with what both of you are saying. And it really was hard putting it up against that Donk match. But if we can say anything positive about the Donk match, it's that it only lasted like 2.5 minutes. Whereas Lex gave us the full 9 3/4.
The full Luger.
Yeah. Oh man, that's what happened to Joe. Joe had it coming out both ends after he got the full Luger. My God. There's going to be tests, and we're going to provide them to you. See if you got a bad case of the full Luger. But yeah, I mean, it was hard going up against old Donk and fucking Dink, but that has to be it. It'll always be it, I think. It's pretty safe to say that it'll always be Luger. All right. Well, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around February 27th for us?
I do, Jason the Terrible, to take one of Ken Raper's former names. This might be my favorite story that I have read since the time we started this. January 93 to February 95, but I'm going to save this one for last, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So first thing noted here is that Glenn Jacobs, we mentioned him last week.
And earlier today.
And earlier today. Glenn Santo, I should say. He worked another match he worked another match at a house show. This time he's working as the Pitbull, not to be confused with the rapper Pitbull. February 22nd, Raw and Action Zone. Man Mountain Rock, or MMR as Bartlett would say, did the national anthem at these two shows.
Oh, man.
And, I mean, we didn't see this. I don't think they're going to air it because they had problems with the audio, so he got booed in the arena.
Kathy Lee Gifford style.
Yeah, and he promised. Now this took place in North Charleston, South Carolina. And he promised the crowd that he would do a better job the next time he was back in Augusta, which got him booed again because they were not in Augusta.
He can't even get the cheap pop right.
This is not looking good for MMR. Chris Candido, we mentioned him last week as well. Him and Tammy Sitch, they have debuted at house shows, and they are currently working as baby faces known as Chris and Tammy Spirit, with Tammy in what Meltzer calls a poorly fitting cheerleader outfit, and Chris in an outfit with a cape trying to get the fans to cheer, but the fans hated the gimmick. And I believe it may have been during this match. I couldn't tell with the way it was written, but I have some very bad news about a former jobber of the week. Reno Riggins. He landed wrong on a Frankensteiner off the top rope and injured his ribs and was stretchered out at a house show.
Man.
Last year's Jobber of the Year.
Yes. Hopefully we'll see him back. Make a full recovery and come back.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yes. Shane Douglas got a tryout as a color commentator, which I thought was a little interesting there. They want him for a top babyface spot down the road as well, but right now he's getting a tryout as a color commentator. Probably, I'm assuming, to replace, have that heel announcer, but they're saying babyface. It's not making sense right now. Meltzer commented on the LT angle and says they've done a very good job. And Lawrence Taylor, Meltzer said, was better than virtually any novice put in that situation that he's ever seen. So he's really putting it over. And for the last note here is, like I said, this might be one of my favorite things I've read. Men on a Mission and Smoking Guns had a title match at a house show.
Oh, boy.
They did an angle where Men on a Mission jumped the Guns after the match until Oscar, their manager, got them to stop. Later in the show, Oscar came out and apologized for Men on a Mission's behavior. Mabel then did a speech and told the Guns to come out so that Men on a Mission could apologize. And long story short, the Smoking Guns jumped Men on a Mission, and Mabel accidentally splashed Oscar, who was carried out on a stretcher. So Dave Meltzer assumes that is the end of the Oscar character.
So that is how Oscar dies.
That's how he becomes Beetlejuice.
Squashed by Mabel.
I had to confirm, like and this is why I asked you for that website, because I had to confirm this wasn't on TV, and I'm pretty sure it was not, but my God, I'd love to see this.
How could they not put that on television? Travesty.
That is where we will end the news. We will end the news with the end of Oscar's career.
Wow. That's probably the best way we've ever ended it. Thank you, Joseph. Very good news tonight. Thank you. That's good. That's very good. That's a great way to end the night. So, yeah, that's going to be it for this episode of Wrasslin Raw. Real quick, though, we want to just give you a quick refresher on the rules for our t-shirt contest. So we're going to be giving away a Wrasslin Raw t-shirt to a lucky winner out there somewhere worldwide. Now, remember that. It doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can enter this contest. And all you need to do that is to slide up in our DMs. Send us a love letter, send us an I hate you letter, send us questions, send us praise, send us whatever you want to send us, but send them to our Twitter and Instagram direct message folders, however you want to call that. On Twitter, we are at Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. On Instagram, we are at WRASSLINRAWPODCAST. So get them up in there, and it is only Twitter and Instagram. We also have Reddit, Facebook, and a couple other social media accounts, but they won't count. Anybody entering there won't get entered. So, well, that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us, and if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe and get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 6th, 1995, with matches featuring Bob Backlund, Stephen Dunn, and a couple more. Not many, but a couple. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.